Welcome. You're listening to the Louie Minor Show. I'm your host, Commissioner Louie Minor. Today is February 3rd, 2024. Happy Black History Month. We have a lot to get to, so let's get started. Well, let's get started with the agenda for the Bell County Commissioners Court for February 5th, 2024. First thing on the agenda is the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance. On consent agenda items, we have A, consider approval of the minutes of the January 22nd and January 29th meetings of the Commissioners Court. Personnel budget amendments, claims, accounts payable, payroll, restitution, jury pay. D, consider and approve a resolution authorizing the submission of the specialty courts grant application in the amount of $74,683.52 with a funding match of $0 for the Bell County Drug Court Program to the Office of the Governor, designating Bell County Judge as the authorized official for the grant. E, consider and approve a resolution authorizing submission of the specialty courts grant application in the amount of $67,549.12 with a funding match requirement of $0 for the Bell County Truancy's Court or Bell County Veterans Treatment Court Program to the Office of the Governor, designating Bell County Judge as the authorized official for that grant. F, consider and approve a resolution authorizing the submission of specialty courts grant application in the amount of $203,846.18 with a funding match requirement of $0 for the Bell County Mental Health Court Program to the Office of the Governor, designating Bell County Judge as the authorized official for the grant. G, consider and approve a resolution authorizing the submission of a criminal justice grant program application in the amount of $252,680.10 with a matching fund requirement of $0 for the Bell County Sheriff's Department to the Office of the Governor, designating the Bell County Judge as the authorized official for the grant. And then H, consider and approve authorizing submission of State Homeland Security grant application in the amount of $194,550 with a funding match requirement of $0 for the Bell County Project Manager to the Office of the Governor, designating the Bell County Judge as the authorized official for the grant. I, consider ratification of a contract for the resale of unimproved real estate described as Lots 1 through 5, Block 14, Clearwater Mesa Edition, Odessa, Ector County, Texas, for the sale of $25,000. That's everything on the consent agenda. Then we have the county engineer consider and approve final plat of Holland Hilltop Estates, being a 10.460 acres, 4-lot, 1-block subdivision located in Bell County, Precinct 1. Consider and approve a final plat of West Amity subdivision, being a 11.45 acres, 12-lot, 2-block subdivision located in Bell County, Precinct 2. Then we have item 5, conduct a public hearing to discuss reinvestment zone to be known as the Bell County Bell 1 Solar Project Reinvestment Zone Number 1. Then discuss and consider an order concerning the adoption and designation of the Bell County Bell 1 Solar Project Reinvestment Zone Number 1 pursuant to the county's guidelines and criteria under the Property Redevelopment and Tax Abatement Act, Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. 7, consider and approve a change request ALLW-142 on the Loop Jail project in the amount of $53,159. Funds for this will be deducted from owner contingency. The change is for the revision of the roof penthouse on the tower for addition of an enclosure surrounding the elevator equipment to meet code. Item 8, consider authorizing the distribution of $1.5 million to the Bell County Expo Inc. for the arena seating replacement project allocated in the FY 2024 Capital Improvement Plan. 9, consider amendment to transfer $18,920 from JP Precinct 42 from a vacancy to JP 41 to cover part-time staff through September 30th, 2024. 10, consider budget amendment to delete 1 deputy position in Constable 1, create 2 part-time positions, and fund necessary equipment to outfit said positions for the purpose of providing security to courtrooms and at 2nd Street Annex. Then number 11, consider authorizing the county judge to enter into interlocal agreement with the Central Texas Council of Governments relating to the March 8th through 9th, 2024 Bell County Tire Disposal event. And that is everything for the regular meeting. Now for our workshop that will follow the meeting beginning at 10 o'clock. We have received updates and reports from various county offices and departments, capital improvement projects, jail expansion, museum, clean annex, and FY 2023 CIP plan. Maybe that needs to be updated. And then discuss first quarter budget amendments, discuss tax abatement policy. And that's everything for in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we have a presentation and briefing by Tom Skillian, Senior Research Engineer, Texas A&M, on full depth reclamation. And that is everything that we have on the workshop. It does have something about a meeting, February 7th, WCID number 1 water planning meeting that will be happening in Killeen that we may all attend. So what I want to talk about this week is, if you remember last week, I was talking about Representative Hugh Shine. He was going to have a border symposium, and I attended that on Monday. I believe it was Monday. And packed room, obviously all Republicans, mostly Republicans there. Well, there were some Democrats that I know attended just to hear what was said. Like I wanted to hear what was going on, what messaging they're trying to get across on Operation Lone Star, the multi-billion-dollar waste of money, in my opinion. But anyways, packed room full of people. Obviously, a lot of local officials attended that. But on the panel, it was Hugh Shine and Senator Pete Flores. And then there were supposed to be a couple of state representatives attend, but one of them got COVID and didn't show up. So his legislative director attended. It seemed very long-winded. But the person that concluded the meeting was the project director for Operation Lone Star. And he was telling us about something I was unfamiliar with, and that is the Border Prosecution Unit, the BPU, and what they do. And it just so happens that the guy has roots to DeBell County. He used to work as a district attorney here, Mr. Nelson Barnes. Whenever I was going to college early in my career, I was a police officer, and one of my instructors was Nelson Barnes. So I have a lot of respect for him. Very smart guy, well spoken, and he's just there trying to do a job. I don't know if it's the correct job, but he's there doing a job. And anyway, so I'm going to play in its entirety his presentation, because I did learn a lot, surprisingly, of exactly what they're doing down at the border. So let me play this for you, and then I'll comment at the end of it.
Thank you very much, Matt. In May of 2021, the governor issued a disaster declaration. It covers 53 counties. Most of those are near the border, giving the state of Texas the authority to deploy the National Guard on the border. State agencies involved in Operation Lone Star include the DPS, the Texas Military Department, and local law enforcement. And this is costing the state of Texas roughly $2.5 million a week, every week for each service forces. The legislature back in 2021 passed House Bill 9 that authorized the state to dedicate nearly $2 billion to border security for 2 years. That brought the total to the time frame to about $3 billion. And then over the last 8 years, we've passed many border security initiatives, including building of the wall. So Operation Lone Star was first announced. We had 500 National Guard soldiers that are on the border. And 2021, when the funding was there, we had a deployment of another additional 1,800 National Guard soldiers. 30 days later, 1,000 DPS personnel and another 400 National Guard soldiers deployed, when over 16,000 migrants descended on Del Rio. Now, I've been down to Del Rio. That's when I first met Nelson, because I have gone to the border each year and spent time on the border working with DPS and local law enforcement. A month after all of that, an additional 10,000 National Guard members were sent. And each time we go down to the border, we see DPS and local law enforcement meeting with the soldiers that are there and the assignments and their duties and their responsibilities. There's actually a National Guard facility compound that's been built on the airfield in Del Rio as well to support all that. So that brings us to our third individual on the panel, and that is Nelson Barnes. And Nelson is the project director for Operation Lone Star. He's assistant district attorney. He's responsible for being involved in the courtroom, the lawsuits, and with legislation that we passed in the state of Texas, statutory laws. And he is in the middle of the conflict that's going on with the implementation of what we're trying to accomplish as a state with the federal government. So Nelson, with that, take it over.
Thank you. I, as a lawyer, am pleased to be here. It's great to be back in Belton County. There are a lot of old friends here and friendly faces I see tonight. For those of you who I don't know, I was an assistant county attorney and an assistant district attorney here for just short of 28 years. And then I went up to Waco for a little cup of coffee and then was called to my present job with the Border Prosecution Unit. Don't worry, folks, I will not tell them how long we have known each other. Because I know there are some word faces out there. But I'd like to talk to you a little bit about where we were at the beginning of Operation Lone Star, which kind of led to me being brought into this situation. Lucky me, it's one of the best jobs I have ever had. And what we are doing down there from an actual standpoint of what we have going on, and then kind of where we're going from there. It's going to kill me to sit here and not stand up and talk to y'all, so please bear with me. I'm used to standing in front of people and getting to ask them questions about what you think about this or that when you talk to jurors. So, but I'm thrilled to be here. If we can move on. I work for an organization called the Border Prosecution Unit. I work for a lady named Tanya Spade Allsweet. She is the district attorney in the 452nd, but she is also the elected chairwoman of the BPU. She is tireless. She is, to some extent, running almost a pseudo-statewide operation. For this, she is compensated the grand sum of $0. She is doing this because it is the right thing to do, and it is what BPU does. She would have loved to have been here today, and I'll explain what BPU is. But we had a little problem a couple years ago with the guy burning the courthouse down in Mason, and they are presently have the jury out on his trial. So she's been a little tied up to come over here this afternoon, but she would have loved to have been here, so I want to send her regards. She is one of the true champions of what's going on for the fight at the border. I know Senator Flores well knows Tanya, and a lot of folks down at the legislature, when you just say Tanya, that's all you got to say. But she is a great lady, and I want to give all my kudos to her. Okay, the Border Prosecution Unit, we have been in the border crime business since 2009. We were originally funded, we are a trusted program of the governor's office, which what that big fancy name means is we've got a line item in the budget, so they fund us. Rather than just so every 2 years we go and ask for our money and bother these guys to try and stay in business. But we started originally with just a small number of lawyers. As you can see, we run everywhere from El Paso to Brownsville. You're going to look at some of those places and say, why is there like a border issue in Dallas or Houston? We also include the Texas Anti-Gang Centers. So one of our jurisdictional colleagues is in McLennan County, where they have a tag. They all come under our auspices for funding purposes of the BPU. This is a cooperative working agreement. We don't exist as an organization as in we are our own thing. This is grant funding for local district attorneys who then hire folks into their offices as locals. Like I am an assistant district attorney in the 452nd. You say, well, you keep saying 452nd. Where is that? As Mason, McCullough, Menard, Kimball, and Edwards. And as our district judge likes to say, we have 22,000 people in 25,000 square miles. All right, so we're real on top of each other out there. But if we go to the next one, all right, you can see we're in 17 district attorney's offices. We're in 48 counties. This is the elected district attorneys get together and elect the leadership. We have a general counsel who helps us operate as an organization. And like I said, my boss is the elected chair of all this. This originally started to do big border crime, cartels, organized crime, those kind of issues back in 2009. And our original lawyers were based with DPS. So we have a very long history of being very coordinated with the Department of Public Safety. That has been our bread and butter, that we work on bigger issues that a local prosecutor may not have time to sit on his desk and work on one case that involves 6 or 7 months of operational work. But that's what BPU started, and we've expanded. As we said now, we are up to, I believe, 55 attorney slots that the legislature has funded us for. About 15 of those are unfilled because there's a shortage of people who apparently can't live away from I-35 or a city of less than 1 million people. I don't know why, because I'm enjoying getting off I-35. But as we go on from here, you can see a little more about our time with DPS. We work very extensively with a lot of different groups, but particularly with the department on this, is carrying the load on this. We provide training, we provide legislative updates, we work on any and every issue, and let me show you how this started up. We'll go to the next one, Jim. All right, let's look a little bit about what our problem is. I want to show you some game camera footage from a big ranch that sits on the Maverick and Kinney County border. Maverick County is Eagle Pass, Kinney County is Bracketville. And we can just kind of shuffle through these slides. On this property, they see 150 to 200 walkers every night. No rain, sleet, storm, nothing stops. Okay, this is a constant on their property. This is some of the trash they leave. This is probably the most unrealized part of this in the media, is there's this discussion that these folks are just down there walking across the property causing no harm. When they got to go, they go. Okay? You can see one of our fellow members here in that last slide is here with us tonight. Bill Conway there, he was down there at the border. Representative Shine was talking about their visit. This is trash along the riverbank. When they cross, they dump everything that's wet. That gets left for the folks at Eagle Pass to deal with. Fences being cut are a problem because, as you know, livestock gets out, you're liable for it, even if somebody else cuts your fence. So that's a problem, not to mention the problem we have with others. And this is not a uniquely right on the border situation. We like to say that if you have a paved road in your county, you're a border county. Right? And this is in Edwards County, which is Rock Springs, almost 80 miles from the river. That's the county judge's bump gate. No one was chasing them when they drove through that gate at such a high speed to blow it out. They just did it. And we found this. Back up towards the top, just off those steps coming off of that porch, is a dead body. There is a humanitarian concern. These folks are coming and walking across these big parts of property. And like all of you know, it gets hot here in the summer. It gets real hot down there. I tried to grow a beard when I started this job because I thought it'd be the thing to do at a certain age. It was May 4th at Eagle Pass. It was 107 degrees. I got rid of my beard. These folks are standing around trying to decide what to do with, if we go to the next slide, their friend who has expired for dehydration and is being put in that body bag. They left it and kept walking. So we have a lot of people. Smuggling, we're going to talk about that. This is the result of a high-speed chase from trying to get arrested on a smuggling run. This was in Kimball County. He tried to avoid spikes, went off the side of the road. If you see that big tree trunk up there in the top right hand, that's a bull mesquite about 30 inches in diameter. That car sawed that into 3 pieces. It didn't just snap the tree off. It took about a 4-foot section out of the middle of that trunk and drove it. It's on the other side of the car for how fast they were going. That smuggler was from Oklahoma. That car belonged to Hertz. Now, maybe you know why rent cars have gotten so high. There were 2 passengers in that car. Everyone died in that car. There was a male and a female. We are finding more and more guns with our smugglers. It used to be we didn't find a lot of guns. We're now finding a lot more weapons. We're seeing more weapons, and we're hearing that they've been told. We have had folks shoot at officers down there. We have had officers we had a juvenile get out of the car shooting at officers. He was shot 7 times. He did not die. He has since been rearrested for smuggling again after he got out of the hospital. So obviously he learned a valuable lesson. This is in Brady, Texas, where my boss is sitting in that courthouse right now. We already had one court press burned down. I got this call about 4 o'clock one morning. That truck was on fire sitting against the wall of the courthouse. It had 12 people in that pickup. They were smuggling. They weren't even going to get pulled over. The officer just stopped at the stop sign as they drove by. They panicked and just sped away crazy, so we did begin to chase them. They wrecked into a tree on the courthouse lawn and stopped there short of the courthouse with that truck on fire. That's the last thing we needed was another courthouse burning down in our jurisdiction. We get a bad name for that. All right, we'll go to the next one. Our big issues, obviously, are our landowner impact. Down in the border, they've had huge issues with the criminal trespass and the criminal mischief. That gentleman I showed you that had the dead bodies on the property, he had to move his wife and kids off the property. He said it's very difficult to explain to a 4-year-old why there's a dead man laying on your front porch. He also didn't feel safe anymore with those folks walking through all the time to have his wife and kids out there on that ranch. That is a common story we hear. Our landowners down there feel deeply threatened that they have lost their homes. We have a hard time sometimes explaining that, particularly to the defense lawyers involved in this. They say, well, they're just coming to this big spot. What does it matter? And so we always ask them, okay, how would you feel if 15 people came over on Friday night, brought out a keg and set it up in your backyard and had a party and left their trash? And that's what the equivalent of this is. And that's the way these folks are seeing this. And so part of what we're doing down there, if I've heard nothing more from these landowners who have been affected, and I know probably the reps have as well, is that they have hope again that there's a system that actually believes they're there. And if we're doing nothing else, we're at least keeping the candle lit against the darkness. For public safety, we're seriously concerned with evading and smuggling. You probably all heard about out in Ozona, where we had the lady and her granddaughter killed as a smuggler was fleeing. They have been charged with capital murder. Lori English, who is VP prosecutor, has them indicted. They'll go to trial when that reaches its proper place. But that's one of our big concerns, because we do have a huge effect of the evading, and we've had lots of innocent folks killed, not just folks in the smuggler car. We can go next. All right. So what did we do with all these problems? We got increased funding. We got increased law enforcement at the border. As Representative Shine said, we've got DPS. We've got the military department. We've got Parks and Wildlife down there. We've got law enforcement from other states. Florida has a steady set of folks who are down here they send folks for 6-week terms. We've had one who's been here for 9 months who apparently never wants to return to Florida. I don't know if there's legal stuff involved or not. Don't want to ask. We have had about 8 or 9 of them who have left their employment with Florida and have joined our Department of Public Safety. We're not, as Colonel McCraw, the Director of DPS, will say, we are not above poaching. We can get a good officer, we will take it. So we do that. Operation Lone Star at its finest is an operation in name, but really it is a funding mechanism. We realized that the impact on these rural and smaller population counties was dramatic, and extremely dramatic. And the legislature and the governor found us the money to help with that. Obviously, you're all aware, and we see the barriers and the Conex containers and the buoys and all of those issues that are part of a deterrent effect. Because all we want to do and all we have ever asked, it's like anything that I've been a prosecutor for my entire career, is we're just trying to make it stop. We just want to deter it. Okay? And all we ask is you walk across that bridge and fill out the papers. And if there's a decision made to let you in, good for you, welcome to America. But we want to know who you are and why you're here. We have a huge difference on the border. We have folks who will cross that river and sit down and wait to get picked up. They're not afraid about us knowing they're here. They're going to see someone. They just don't wait in line. These guys who want to walk 10, 15, 20 miles through the brush, they don't want us to know they're here. We got to worry about that. Because like Representative Shine said, we're picking up people who we got no business here. Criminals, sex offenders. I know there's been 87 registered sex offenders who have been deported, who have been caught as part of our operations on the criminal trespass. That was numbers as of about 4 or 5 months ago. It's probably bigger now.
It is.
Yeah. And so we keep that going. BPU originally was designed to do felonies. That was what our mission was. It's what our assignment was. We got into this because it got too big for the counties that had it. Any county was a county, which is Bracketville. Mostly known and famous as the place where John Wayne's The Alamo was filmed. They averaged 6 to 8 misdemeanor cases a month. That was their criminal justice system. When Operation Lone Star started, we were arresting 100 people a day. All right, so we'll flip. So, we presently now run criminal trespass operations in 7 counties. We're in Valverde County, Kinney County, Jim Hogg County. I'll run down where those places are, okay? Valverde County is Del Rio. Kinney County is Bracketville. Jim Hogg is Hepburnville. The Maverick County is Eagle Pass. Webb County is Laredo. Zapata County is Zapata, which also has the best liver and onions in Texas. I used to be a bigger eater. We are in Uvalde County, and we are coming soon to Brooks County if we can just get some grant things answered from the folks at the governor's office. Because they just don't throw money at us, they make us prove why we need the money. So your money is being watched over and off. The part of what goes on with criminal trespass, I want to let y'all know what our program is we have brush teams that go out at night. We have a huge camera network we set up and put in place that has game cameras that are monitored. They go off. We know the routes typically they use. Most of these folks do not break new trail. They follow the same trails. And we have teams that are specially trained from DPS, mixed in with members of the military department, sometimes some local law enforcement, sheriff's office. They go out and arrest these people in the dark with what risk that involves. We have not had a deadly force incident in the 2 years we have done this. No one has had to discharge a firearm in regards to that. We have had with smugglers. We have not had one with anybody with our brush teams. They do an amazing job. We only get to do this with landowner consent. We can't go on these folks' property without them allowing us. Some folks want us there, some folks don't. So we have to work around that. With that, the big impact where BPU came into play was also the impact on the local court system. In Kinney County, they've had 6,000 plus criminal trespass cases in the last 2 years this has been operating. In Maverick County, they've been going about 14 months, and they're at 4,000 plus criminal trespass cases. It is a huge impact on the clerks in those counties. It is a huge impact on the county courts in those counties. I never thought I was going to have to learn everything a county clerk did. I thought when I came to this job, I'm going to help prosecutors, we're going to go to court, we're going to convict people, we're going to hold people accountable. But we've had to become part of making this whole thing work in these smaller counties. So I've become well accustomed to what clerks do and what court coordinators do and all that, because that's what we've done to make it work. Honestly, these counties don't have places to house these people when we arrest them. Any county has 3 jail cells, if they're open. Their jail is, I think, older than the Alamo. And so when it's allowed to be open, they didn't have space. So I'm going to show you some pictures of some of what we've created to deal with that. But we converted, the governor's had TDCJ convert now 3 prison units into county jails. Okay? I have a limited edition DPU patch for the first person here who can tell me what the difference is between a county jail and a prison unit. The biggest single difference. No, ma'am? No? Bingo! Who said air conditioning? I should have cut the law enforcement people off. Usually I do. Look at this slide door process. All right. Yeah. So, but what we have done is we've created those to house these folks after they're arrested. This is a process we put in place to handle these mass numbers. These folks get to go to court quicker, faster, and maybe more efficiently than any other criminal defendant in Texas for misdemeanors. They are arrested, they are taken to booking, they are magistrated. By law, they have to be magistrated within 24 hours. They are processed. The magistration takes place with judges on video from all over the state. We have a number of retired judges who do these magistrations. Val Verde, we do it twice a day, and Jim Hogg, we do it once a day, simply because of the numbers. They then, if they make bond, which they are entitled to do, and about 50% of our criminal trespassers have family members who post their bond, most of which is cash bonds. Any counties probably had, by now, close to $4 million in cash bonds posted. They're then released to ICE. After they make bond, they go to ICE. Some of them may get removed. Some of them may still be allowed to stay. We don't know because they don't tell us, and they don't have to. If you don't get for bond, you go to Briscoe or Segovia, the 2 TDCG units if you're a man. You go to Lopez if you're female. Right? Because We got yelled at because we weren't arresting ladies in the beginning because we didn't have a unit to put them in, and we fought that in the courts, and they're still fighting it in the courts. So we said, that's fine. You've come a long way, baby. I'm dating myself, those who might remember that act. So we're totally equal opportunity, and ladies get to go to jail for criminal trespass too. They then have court. Most of it takes place on Zoom. If they make bond, they fight these cases right and left. If they stay in jail, almost 98% of them plead guilty. They're assessed time served, but we get them in the system. We've now done their biometrics. We now know who they are. We have their fingerprints. We now know who these folks are. If they get into any further mischief, if they're allowed to stay or they come back. They then are released to ICE, and ICE does what ICE does. Most of these folks see a judge in less than 14 days from the day they're arrested. That's the system we put in place. They are appointed a lawyer at magistration. Within 24 hours of their being arrested, they have a lawyer appointed. That is faster than anybody in this country gets a lawyer appointed. Those lawyers are all paid for by us. We even have had the Supreme Court pass a law that's letting out-of-state lawyers represent them. It's really fun to know that's where our checks are going, but I didn't say that out loud. All right, so if we go to the next one, I want to show you kind of what this places look like. This is our Valverde Processing Center. And as you can see, we were doing this on the quick. They were saying, what can we do? What can we set up? That is a tent from the San Antonio Rodeo. We used to serve beer in it. We grab what you can grab when you're starting. Okay, this was an emergency. This is the inside of it. Those are horse carols. Okay, that's our detention cell. No one stays in this more than 24 hours. We try to keep them there only 12 hours is our goal, so we can open it back up. It can hold 96 at a time. Well, we got a year long and opened Jim Hall. We built this to spec. It's very nice. We'll go through here. This is where we book them. Everything that happens at a county booking desk happens here. There is a live scan where their entire body is scanned. Make sure there's nothing inside. We have found stuff. These are the detention facilities, and there is a phone in there that they have access to. There are toilets in there with privacy screens. And we have screens we can put in place because we do process females and males both through these facilities as a booking desk. They then leave here, like I said, within 24 hours and go to one of those prison units where they wait their court date. Go up from here. All right. Other big problem we have. Smuggling. This has become the biggest problem on our horizon, the biggest problem we're dealing with. I'll just start with right there. In Valverde and Kinney County, there are 5,000 to 8,000 smuggling felonies in their system right now. We don't know exactly because if they made bond, the DA has been so overwhelmed she has not even gotten to 23 cases yet, unless they are in jail. She just recently had her staff increased 5-fold, thanks to the folks at the Ledge. Much appreciated to help her. And they are burning through that right and left. They are working 24/7 on these cases. These are all felony cases. We can go back. They're all felony cases. I like to use our example from Edwards County, which is Rock Springs. We have filed over 1,800 smuggling cases in the last 2 years. There's 1,400 people in the 2020 census in Edwards County. Okay, it is a small case. They have smuggling every day. They run through the school. They drive through their parade. Okay, think about it. On 4th of July, we had to stop the parade because you had a high-speed chase through Belton. That happened in Rock Springs 2 summers ago. So that's part of what the burden is down there. Huge burden because these are all felonies. If we can move up, Jim. As they both all were talking about in front of me, we have increased the punishment for these. Okay, effective February 6th is when the new SB 4.3 is on calling, or SB 3.4. Then we have SB 4.4. Don't get confused. There'll be a test later. They conveniently gave them both the same number. It makes it a little easier for me. I just got to remember which session to look the bill up in. But the smuggling increased to where for third-degree punishment for smuggling is only 10 years. The only thing you can be punished for if you're found guilty of smuggling is 10 years. Doesn't matter if you plead guilty, doesn't matter if you have a trial. We anticipate more trials. As prosecutors, we're not running from that. That's what we do, and that's what we're going to do. The legislature did give us one little piece that's very helpful to us. The Senator's office was very helpful with this, that if you cooperate and provide information to law enforcement, tell us who you're working for, tell us who you're working with, give us information about what organization you're involved with, you can reduce your punishment in half and get it down to 5 years. You could be 5 to 10. That is a tool we believe will be very helpful for us. But we are seeing now at least 25 to 30% of our arrests now are smuggling rather than trespass. It is shooting through the roof. It is crazy. We've seen new changes in it. Originally, almost all our smugglers are from large urban areas: Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. They all are recruited on social media. They typically have no criminal history. Juveniles are a big push. And they're promised big money to come down here and pick these people up. Come down here and you'll get $1,000 a person for putting 6 people in your car and driving into San Antonio. We're going to send you a pin. It's nothing illegal to pick up people off the side of the road, but don't drive by any of the checkpoints. Okay? That's why Rock Springs is such a player. You can go from Del Rio to Rock Springs and not go past the Border Patrol checkpoint. On one of the worst roads in the state of Texas, unless you like to drive on 10-mile-an-hour hairpin curves. And when it says 10, it means 6. We call it the roller coaster. It's very pretty. I do recommend taking the drive, and I will give you all a little tour advice to speak well of my new home counties. There's one of the best Thai restaurants in the entire United States in Rock Springs, Texas. And it's only open for lunch. So go over one afternoon during the week. But if you're over there, it's great. Obviously, we've got future legislative actions going to have a heavy impact on our system, and we are. Senate Bill 4, when the illegal entry hits, we will know if we're going to go on March 6th is our effective day. Anybody else know what that day is? Yeah, exactly. Election day. But if we have a hearing on February 13th in federal court to find out if we're going to get to go or not. Or if they'll hold it, if they'll join us, or if they won't. Part of that is the appellate. President Stein asked me to talk about some of the fights we've had on this. Presently, our organization in BPU and our office, my job, we manage this with a number of appellate lawyers. We have over 300 pending appeals involving criminal trespass and or smuggling in state court. Not in federal court, but challenges in state court that the smuggling statute is unconstitutional. We originally had the 4th Court in San Antonio find the statute unconstitutional, then they changed their mind. But we are fighting in San Antonio largely, where most of these jurisdictions run, the fights about the unconstitutionality of our enforcement of these statutes of the criminal trespass. I was privileged in my job to get to argue for the first time in front of the Court of Criminal Appeals over criminal trespass. Big, important legal issues, right? People who are where they're not supposed to be. You crawled over a fence. Fences mean don't go in. So, but that's the kind of issue that we're having to fight every turn. And all of this is with appointed counsel who are getting paid hundreds of dollars an hour to fight these cases. Like I said, it's the same lawyers who, I do find it funny, I have to share this, and I don't find these lawyers to be any kind of horribly obtrusive true believers, but they filed a case claiming the unconstitutionality of our operation for unconstitutional law in federal court. That thing's been pending for 2 years. It's just sitting. 3 days later, she's pleading her other clients guilty who haven't made bond in the same program, because it was the benefit of her client to get out of jail. So the client who's on bond sues it's unconstitutional, the one who's in takes their medicine. So those are some of the fights that we're running on. If we get the illegal entry, obviously our numbers will go up. we will have more folks to arrest, and we will work from there. I always have a question slide, but the boss man will tell us whether we're doing that or not.
Okay. Nelson, thank you. Real quickly, you mentioned a little bit about some of the federal conflicts that we have. Just recently, I think the federal government filed through the Department of Justice the Harbors and Rivers Act of 1899. Can you explain that a little bit?
I can explain a little bit of it as a sideline. The Attorney General is handling most of those cases directly that involve the federal attachments when we go to federal court. We were wondering if we were going to be asked to appeal that, but the AGs just made their decision. They would represent the players, although the El Paso District Attorney who's being sued by this is actually hiring outside counsel. That's an interesting lawsuit. I'll get on the harbors real quick, but it's real interesting. The county attorney in El Paso sued the director of DPS, Steve McCraw, and the district attorney of El Paso, who she is by contractually bound to represent in all lawsuits. So now El Paso County is having to hire him outside counsel to represent him. So El Paso County is in effect suing itself and paying for both sides. That's another of the fun Operation Lone Star stories. But the Harbor and Buoys Act, the basic gist of their argument is that there is old federal law from the 1800s that says that if it has to do with the waterway and it has to do with anything, is that the feds have a right to say what goes in or out of that waterway. Now, I haven't seen them bothered by who goes in and out of the boat ramps down there, so you have to wonder about that. But that's part of what their claim is that we put stuff in their water and it's affecting the transit of the Rio Grande. I know there have been a lot of stories talked about these buoys and the razor blades that are in between them. There are no razor blades. It's a ratchet. Because part of the way these things work is when you try to grab on them, they spin. So you can't crawl up it because it's not solid. That's why you can't get over it. There's no giant net underneath it to keep you from going under. They're anchored to the board on a concrete base.
Like on the Ninjas.
Like on the Ninja, or on those shows where they got to do the crazy stuff and run across the walls. It all rolls. And so that's kind of where that fight has come from. The new lawsuit has claimed that we're into an area. We have been hearing this, what they call federal preemption argument in state court as well on the smuggling statute. That we can't stop people from smuggling people because that's exclusively federal law. And if they don't want to enforce it, it doesn't matter if they want to enforce it, it's just theirs. We are fighting that right and left in state court. Eventually we'll fight it in federal court. But that's where we go from the smuggling.
So we're a nation of laws. And the folks that we're trying to apprehend are aware of that. And the folks that assist them, the smugglers and what have you, are aware of that too. So we basically find ourselves in really kind of fighting ourselves through our own court systems because of the federal lawsuits and what we're trying to do as a state to take care of and protect folks.
And we are, and we're paying both sides of this bill.
Yeah.
Because we're paying for the criminal defense of this, which we have to. But the one thing I always will say about this is we are giving them, we're doing it by the book. We're going to do it by the book, and we're never going to cut a corner on that. Because if we do, put me in who we are. I always like to, I can't not use sports analogies. People here who know me know that. We have our playbook, we give it to them, we still beat them.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we keep these to about an hour, and we've gone over just a little bit. I want to thank you, Nelson, for being here and coming up, and Matt and Senator Flores. And Randy, great job for the Belton Chamber facilitating this and putting this on, and I really appreciate that. You've done a real yeoman's job for us in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I hope you learned something from Mr. Barnes, Nelson Barnes. I know I did. And just some, I guess the biggest takeaway that I got from this is that the state of Texas, the taxpayer, we are paying for everything. We're paying for the wall. We're paying for that. Well, Mexico was supposed to pay for that. Remember that. But you're paying for it. I'm paying for it. We're paying for the troopers down there. We're paying for the National Guard to be down there. We're paying for these makeshift jails down there at the border. We're also paying for the defense attorneys that represents the individuals, the persons that are being arrested. We're paying for the courts because with all these added arrests, they'd need more prosecutors, and I'm assuming more judges. And if you heard at some point in that Representative Hugh Shine said that we're paying $2.5 million per week down at the border. And I was listening to the radio yesterday, and they were actually talking about all these people going down to the border this weekend. Florida is sending people, and a bunch of states are, trying to send their National Guard down to the border too. Who's going to pay for their housing? Or we are? Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it's a big waste of money. They told you, Nelson Barton's told you that the people that they're arresting, these are all misdemeanors. This is trespassing, criminal trespassing is what they're arresting the people for. And he stated that they cross the borders and they sit down and wait to get picked up. That's what they want. They turn themselves in. That's happening. That's called asylum. And once again, he said he doesn't know if they get released. They turn them over to ICE, to customs, and they might get deported or they might get released into the United States. They don't know that. So at the end of the day, all this money that we're spending, that it is for what? What is it for? It's not stopping the problem. Now, I do support them catching people that are smuggling. Now, it was kind of fuzzy what he was talking about, because you assume smuggling, you're talking about drugs and the cartels, and we've always had that problem down there. Smuggling's always been an issue, and but then he referenced kids being coerced by the cartel to, hey, drive down to the border, pick up 5 or 6 people. We'll pay you $1,000 a head just to bring them back. And so now that's human smuggling. So it's not even drugs that it sounded like. So to me, it doesn't seem like it's addressing any issue. It's always better if you work together with someone than against them. And they're just not doing it. The state of Texas is not doing it. Refusing to work with the president and Congress for that, or the Supreme Court. They've given direction, but the state of Texas keeps on putting razor wire out. So, like I said, I thought that was beneficial for me just to understand what's going on, right or wrong, what the state of Texas is doing down there, how your dollars are being spent down there. And, you didn't get the visual, but they were showing, pictures of the jails and some of the locations that they're operating out of. And, it's, I forgot how many billions of dollars they allocated that they've spent already on Operation Lone Star. But it's not doing anything. It's not stopping people from coming to the border, because now we know even if you get arrested right now in the state of Texas, they're just going to turn you over to ICE, and ICE will probably do what they've been doing, is process you and release you and give you a court date. And so good job, state of Texas, on really, really taking money out of the system, taking money out of taxpayers. Could have done a lot of good with those billions of dollars. A lot of good. Could have helped out a lot of families, a lot of people. But what you're doing is you're throwing money down the drain on the border instead of trying to work with the federal government. But anyways, campaign season's still up and running, full steam ahead. We have city council races now. People are filing for those, and election time is near. We'll start early voting for the March primary later this month. So very excited, exciting times. And I got an event I got to go to here in a little bit, but I'll definitely keep you up to date on everything that's going on locally in the political world and the elections coming up. So have a good weekend, and we will talk to you later.